I love the
storing up guttural energy.
Welcome to What's the Story? My name is Janice Armson. I am your host, and we are so glad that you are here with us today. It's going to be an awesome show. Right, guys?
It's always going to be an awesome show.
It's because you're here, Doug. You know, many different reasons. And it's just so funny because when you're not here, things seem to always happen that prevent us from being
There
here.
is. There's
You
some.
jinxed us, right?
There's a kind of karma.
You
so funny.
just wanted somebody here to pick on you, didn't you?
Yeah.
So,
You know, after every program, my wife tells me, you shouldn't pick on Ed. I said, Debbie, he wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, we have, I want to make mention that we do have Mark Kampf on today. And if you're on Facebook, you're going to see him on the screen. Hello, Mark.
Hello, how are you?
Good to have you here. We do have a couple little things that I'd like to do before I start to chat with you. So bear with us a few moments. We have a word of the day, and I should have shared it with you, Mark, because I think that you'd love it. It's a great word.
It is.
It is. So our word is celerity. And you may not be familiar with that word. I don't think it's used real often. At least I haven't heard it used real often. Have you?
When it starts in 1400, yeah, it's kind of worn out.
You think that's what the problem is? It's worn out?
I think I was born around then,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Could be. So why don't you guys share with our audience what celerity means so that we get that into our
Swiftness of movement.
Yep.
There you go. Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like momentum.
Right.
We were talking before the show how it's like a positive momentum, but no wonder words like that die.
Oh, he threw that in.
Yeah. Not positive.
No. So a car's going to run you over, so you're swift and jumping out of the way. That's not
So
positive.
it looks to me like you're inside the car and you're swift getting where you're going. Me.
Oh, it can be, sure.
Or the direction you want to be going.
That's right. I was swiftly driving over the cliff.
Right. See,
well,
there's
Mark, that you would have appreciated speed in what you were working on when you were doing the counting, right?
Well, speed is good, but accuracy is better.
How did I know you'd say that?
You know, one of the things I do like is it goes back to the Greek root, the Greek word meaning was, and it started with a charger or a swift horse.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was the origin of the word. And it just kind of morphed into.
Was that like on a cave wall?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Oh my goodness, it's going to be a good day. So let's introduce our guest.
Hey, should we throw in a couple of synonyms?
Okay, real quickly, and then we'll get to Mark.
Fastness. Oh, that's hard to say. Fastness, fleetness, haste, hurry, quickness, rapidity, rapidness, speed, speediness, swiftness, and velocity.
Well, there you go. All right.
Certain
in a sentence, but what can you say? So let's get to our guest, Mr. Mark Kampf, on a much more serious note.
Oh, come on now.
Well, we try to be serious occasionally.
All right.
So with celerity, we're going to Mark.
Ah, there you go, with celerity, with only a couple minutes left. But Mark, I would like you to introduce yourself to anybody who might not know who you are, what you do out there in Nye County.
Yes, Mark Kampf. I'm the clerk in Nye County. I was started back in August as an appointed position, and then I won the election in November. And now as of beginning of January, I'm serving my 4-year term as Nye County clerk. I'm responsible for elections and voter registration and anything else that our clerk functions within the county.
All right. And the reason that we're having you here today is because in the 2022 election, the general election in Nye County, you did a hand count in addition to a machine count, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that decision was made by the Board of Commissioners. There was some hubbub from some folks because the prior clerk was not real thrilled about the idea, was my understanding. I don't know if you know that or not, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but that was what I read and heard. And we offered to help her. I know a lot of the citizens around the state had told her that, we'd love to help. So there were a number of challenges that were created for you because of that. And unfortunately, we're going to run out of time in this segment, which we knew was going to be a short segment. And when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about some of those challenges, the temporary ruling that the Secretary of State presented through all of this. There were just a lot of things that happened. So I'd like to kind of review that with you and help our audience to kind of paint the picture of what those months were like just shortly before the election and then afterwards as well, because there's a real story to that. And I think that it's important for everybody to know about this. And it's historical, and I just think that not enough people are talking about it. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks that. I don't know.
I don't think so.
It's just so important. So, all right. We're going to take our break now, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Eddie Floyd. Let me tell you about my favorite non-profit public charity, Wainema Wild Horse Sanctuary, located on the Forsyth Ranch in Hallelujah Junction area. And please go to www.wainemaranch.com. That's WYNEMA ranch.com.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work. Sorry, I'm late. Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time.
Ugh.
Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today, I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed. Support causes that matter. Change lives. Change communities. Change the world. Visit lionsclubs.org to learn more.
Wake up, the sun below. Got another road to sow. Let the fire feel the hope. It's welling up from the depths of my soul.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. This is What's the Story? I'm Janice Hermson. I'm your host, here with Doug Ashby to my right, and then to his right is Ed Knoll. And with us from Nye County is the county clerk, Mark Kampf. Welcome, Mark.
Hello. Afternoon.
Yeah. Good to have you here. And we want to talk a little bit in this segment about some of the challenges that faced you when you took the job, when you were appointed, because the county had been using the way that most counties are. They're using machines to count the ballots. And Nye County voted to have paper ballots. So that presented a number of challenges. And apparently you were up for that challenge. So kind of share a little bit about that.
Well, thank you very much. I took over the job on the 6th of August, and we had a very short period of time to organize a all-paper ballot election. We were able to do that by identifying our mail ballot needs, but also by organizing our ballots by precinct and by adding sequence control numbers on those, because those were critical when we got to the polls to make sure that each ballot that was handed out at the polls could be accounted for, and that we did not lose any ballots or give out too many ballots. And so that was the first part of the exercise that we did. We were actually able to get the ballots, mail ballots, out a week earlier than we had in the past, and our sample ballots out a week earlier in the past, even with implementing an all paper ballot process. So that process at the polls was very well accepted. We did provide for a machine at each location so that those people with disabilities would be able to, vote electronically, and with the audio features that they can listen and vote, in an audio method. And we had around 249 people choose to continue to use the voting machines. That's compared to 16 who had used them in the past. So the process was successful. We were able to account for and track our ballots every single day. We reconciled every single morning and every single night to make sure that no ballots were lost and they were reconciled to the voter registrations.
So
go ahead.
If I can just interject. So you managed to get through this, but prior to the election, the Secretary of State tried to do some kind of temporary ruling, and that did or did not affect Nye County.
Well, they, knowing that we were going to do a parallel process of our accounting for the ballots, in other words, we were going to use the tabulators and then a hand count. The Secretary of State came out early on in the process, even before I was in office, and established a temporary rule T-002 that established their guidelines for doing a hand count of the ballots. Fortunately, I had chosen to use tabulators as our primary method of doing the tabulation of the vote totals, and then using the parallel process of the hand count as a test of concept to see how it would work. Therefore, I didn't have to follow their procedures. However, I implemented some of their procedures, which involved reading the ballots out loud to the talliers. And it was the implementation of their read the ballot out loud process, which got me into trouble with the ACLU and the Supreme Court, because they claimed that that was providing election results early before the results should be released.
Even though you were following the law.
I was
Or the
following the
regulation,
law.
excuse
That's
me,
right.
yes.
I
Yeah.
was following the regulation. Of course, after the fact, they came back and said, well, we really meant for it to be implemented after the polls closed. Well, that wasn't
mentioned to you.
No,
That was a little aside.
Yeah, just after the fact.
Unintended learning experience.
Right. Right.
So I
Many of those.
did put out to some of my listeners. I asked if they had any questions for you. So I if you don't mind, and in this segment, I'd like to ask a couple of them.
Sure.
One of which, you mentioned about the mail-in ballots, and Nevada has gone to all mail-in. Everybody gets a ballot. If you're on the list and you're active, you're getting a ballot. And you can opt out, however. I should put that in, because you can opt out of it, but that creates other things. So, because I did, and I found out. So can you determine, so one of the questions, and I kind of rephrased it a little bit, but can you determine what the true number of ballots that are received by the mail versus how many are delivered in person? In other words, so I get a mail-in ballot, right? That's the only way that I can do a paper ballot in Washoe County, is to walk in with my ballot already filled out and then drop it at the drop box. So for you, I don't know if you can tell or not, but can you determine how many people actually mailed in their ballot versus how many people chose to come in and use the drop box? Is that something that you could tally if you had to?
I could tally it if I had to. The only way I can tell at this point in time would be to go back and pull the envelopes and look at those that had a postmark and didn't have a postmark.
Okay, and the reason this person asked this question is because her concerns are that they're saying that we all love mail-in ballots, that we all want to use mail-in ballots because look how many people mailed in their ballot. But that's really not an accurate count, because I, for one, prefer to come in and vote, and I don't want to use a machine, so I had to use a mail-in ballot, walk in, drop it at the drop box, and that's the only choice I had. And they're calling my ballot a mail-in ballot. So that was the point of her question was, why can't we tally these up separately? Because it's an inaccurate accounting. And you're an accountant, so you can understand what I'm talking about.
No, I agree 100%. In one case, you're turning over custody to the post office, and you're losing that chain of custody.
Absolutely.
And I believe that, although I don't have the data, I will accumulate that in the future. I think it's an important information to accumulate, that we saw an increase in the number of people coming into the polls and dropping off the ballot rather than standing in line, because they realized that with an all paper ballot process, they were going to be doing the same thing at the polls that they could do at their kitchen table. And the only difference was that the ballot can be dropped off in a drop box at the polls, and they don't have to stand in line. And so for those people that don't trust the post office chain of custody, that did not want to have to stand in line, we saw a pretty large increase in the number of people dropping them off. We had to empty the boxes several times during the day, the drop boxes in the polls, and that had never happened in the past.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Another question, and I might want to hold some of this till the next segment after we talk a little bit more, but from the experience that you had, do you see any need to change any of the procedures that you use? So you were talking about all the procedures that were going on. Do you see that there needs to be a change to any of that now?
I mean, as far as the hand count?
Yes. As far as the hand count goes.
Well, actually, it's spurred me to look at all kinds of different alternatives to the hand count. Now, the hand count can be done. We've shown that it can be done in the time frame that's needed to be able to do a complete 100% parallel audit of the tabulation. The problem you have is that there's so much reporting that goes on with the Secretary of State's office that without an electronic file, it makes that reporting nearly impossible to complete in a way that they want the data to be submitted to them. And
If they
so,
were cooperative, could that be adjusted to make it easier?
well, it would require a difference in how we report our information. For example, we're asked to provide what's called a cast vote record, which lists every ballot that was tabulated and the vote for that ballot. To do that from a hand count point of view is very challenging, and it isn't going to give them the kind of results that they're
Not
looking
that you
for.
get not on a machine, because the machine tells you the exact time and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, there are quite a few roadblocks to a full implementation of this, particularly when you have a state that and federal government that requires so much additional reporting and documentation of the mix of elections, the split between whether or not there's Republican vote, mail ballots, early vote, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of data there, that's for sure.
Yeah, and
We've
it is a data monster after the election
Oh
is
god,
completed
yeah.
to satisfy those needs.
I can't even imagine. Did you have a question?
Yeah, are you doing it again in 2 years?
Well, I am seriously thinking about it. However, as I said, I've been looking at lots of different alternatives that produce the same kind of result as a hand count. I'm researching a system called Clear Ballot, and Clear Ballot is used in Maryland, Florida, and New York, and a variety of other states on the East Coast. And what it is a graphic representation of what you see on a ballot and what you see in a hand count process. And it virtually is a 100% audit process. It's not cheap, and it's not a inexpensive, a simple process, but what it does is provides you the ability to drill down to the individual vote marked on a ballot and research that to understand why you might have a difference between your tabulated result and what runs through the Clear Ballot system. I'm also looking at ways to do hand counts without doing 100% hand count, because you can get a very large statistical sample with a smaller than 100% count.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we're gonna review some more and ask more questions. I got quite a number of them here. So thank you, Mark, and we'll be right back. This is What's in Store.
The burning face, not scalding in my face. Let the worry incinerate, smolder out under each step I take.
Okay, we are running a car drive right now to help veterans all across America. So if you car, truck, or van, even a motorcycle or an RV sitting around, you can right now give it away and help the vets. They really need your help. And your car will help support the vets and their families. And guess what? You even get a tax donation. Plus, we'll even come and pick up your car for free. And all you've got to do is pick up your phone right now and make a free call. Now is the perfect time to do something good for the vets. Give back to the vets right now for all they've done for this country. And your old car can really help them. So call the Veterans Car Donation Program right now for free pickup of your vehicle. Help the vets and help your taxes at the same time. Call right now.
800-296-1259. 800-296-1259. 800-296-1259. That's 800-296-1259.
1 in 3 adults in America have prediabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Here's 10 almost for diabetes type 2 with living Ben has mom my. In other words, my mom has been living with type 2 diabetes for almost 10 years. So together, we want to say to the 84 million Americans at risk, exercise and healthy eating can help reverse prediabetes. Start by taking a simple 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Bet he can't say that in reverse.
Well, Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. This is What's the Story? I'm Janice Hermson, and we are interviewing Mark Kampf from Nye County, Nevada, where they, in 2022, did a paper ballot count in addition to a machine count, kind of a verification method, I would say, to some degree. And I don't know, Mark, you can tell us to what degree that was. And before we do that, though, I would like you to just outline, and I know that Ed has some questions for you also. I'd like to have you outline a little bit about the challenges that you had from the ACLU. You mentioned that in the last segment, but could you just kind of give us an overview of what was going on? So you're in the middle of counting, and then you get hit with a lawsuit from ACLU. Is that correct?
That's right. We started our process using the kind of a hybrid method with the Secretary of State's reading the votes out loud. We set it up in separate rooms, count teams in separate rooms, so no one could hear what anyone else was counting. The ACLU showed up as observers, and after the second day of observing, basically came out of there and immediately filed a lawsuit with the 5th District Court to stop us from doing our count. And basically, the items that they were contending were that we were going to release results in advance. They were concerned that we would be preventing voters with disabilities from using machines and revealing their confidentiality, which we did not. And so those were the two key items that were part of their lawsuit to stop us from using ballots out loud.
Yeah, can I ask real quickly here? Was there another way they could have approached that by addressing this with you before they went to court, or did they almost have to do it that way? I'm really curious to know that.
Well, they could have addressed it well in advance because they knew this was coming. But I think to get maximum benefit and maximum publicity for their own agenda, I believe that they made sure that they stopped our process, and that way they could appear to be heroes in the process.
Well, excuse me, but what did the court find when they brought the suit for it?
Well, they found that there was, we had done nothing wrong in with regard to wanting to provide accommodations for voters with disabilities, and that there was no HEPA violation with regard to how we approached it. That was their biggest problem. And so that the courts basically told us that we had to do a silent count and that we could not use the read out loud methodology, and that that was where we had to change, which we did. We came up with a new methodology. They tried to challenge that and were basically stopped by the Supreme Court, and we were allowed to move forward with our revised hand count procedure, which was a silent count process.
So during this whole process of trying to count votes, you were in court.
Right.
And still trying to train people to do the hand count because that was a process you had to do. And so this was, and picking up ballots. I understand you had to go pick up ballots.
Well, we had to deliver the ballots and secure them every single day. And we were transporting ballots from our Tonopah office where the tabulation was done down to Pahrump. It was quite a challenge, particularly when you consider
you had to revise procedures.
Right. And then we had 215 volunteers we had to train. 215. We had on an average of around 70 to 80 people every day coming in and out. So the process had to be pretty simple, but that was 215 people that trained and participated over an 8-day period.
And we want to applaud the people of Nevada that stepped up and helped you out there too. That was
it was inspirational to have so many people show up to help out. But I'd say that's a pretty big challenge because I don't think most people that talk about doing a hand count with volunteers understand the management and the process that you need to have in place so it doesn't get out of hand quickly.
Right. And we have to applaud you as well, because without your management and skill level, that probably couldn't have been quite as smooth as it was. And of course, I have no idea how smooth it was because I wasn't there, but I've heard reports from others. So,
well, excuse me, with this behind you, is it a good template that could perhaps be used for bigger counties and like Washoe?
I've been talking to counties all over the country who are interested in this process. Some have moved towards the read out loud process, and I tell them that doesn't work because people have to not only be able to concentrate, but they have to be able to hear, and you have to be able to speak clearly. So when someone is just reading a ballot and copying that down, it avoids issues of translation. Let's put it that way.
Right. That would be very valid.
But yes, I believe it can be done. But again, does it need to be done? Is it realistic? Until we change our reporting as a country, it's going to take a lot more refinement. Let's put it that way.
Well, I quoted you as saying that part of the reason that this was being done was to instill trust again in the people. And I don't know if that's happened or not by what's happened, because there was so much kerfluffle, if you will, with the ACLU and then having to go back and forth. And, it just seems like that it's always all the challenges instead of as a country and as a state, we showed that we can all work together and that we wanted this process because people came even from Washoe County to go to Nye and help. And I had heard that possibly they didn't even need to, but they wanted to go. They wanted to be a part of this.
Yeah, I think that the goal is to increase confidence in the election process. And in that regard, we showed that the tabulation process in the election could be counted on because we were 99.89% accurate on the sample we were able to test and verify. So that was really the main goal. The hand count is not necessarily a end in and of itself. It's a goal, a methodology to increase voter confidence when it does not exist. And I think we have a lot more work to do to get it right and to make it more efficient and more streamlined. I think the next time, if we were to do a hand count, we could clearly get it done in the time we need to. But the question is, do you need to? Is it the only way to go?
Go ahead.
I was wondering, did you learn anything unexpected learning positive and unexpected learning negative? Did you see anything in your analysis and in doing this process that was like light bulb stuff?
Well, the key thing that came up was that throughout our state of Nevada, although the individual counties can adjust the sensitivity that the tabulators from Dominion read a ballot, they read anything that's greater than 5% of the content within an oval is considered a mark within that oval. Whereas in the hand count, we found out that a person, a human being, can see a mark that a machine cannot see. And that if you look at the Secretary of State's guidelines for what is a vote, it's anything that's visible marks in that oval is a vote. And we found that the 0.11% difference was largely what a human saw as a overvote or a vote that the machine didn't pick up, because if you really look at what's 5% of an oval, that's a lot of pixels within an oval. That's a lot of
space. It's more than a line.
Yeah, it's more than just a line. And so people would put a check mark or an X in a box that the machine would not pick up. And that was the key for us, is we identified a major disconnect between Secretary of State guidelines as far as a vote and what Dominion was reading.
Well, that would really matter.
Yep, that's fascinating.
Yeah, especially on closer races.
Go
ahead, Mark.
Yeah, if there was a closer race, it could make a big difference, yes. But that 0.11 is a very small percentage.
Sure. No, I get that.
I really like your attitude as far as cleaning it up and have people having faith in the system once again, because I think it's completely lost now. But unfortunately, what I see, you could have the cleanest system in the world, and if there's still people out there with a political agenda, they're going to try to weave around what you've created. Is there anything that you think where you can stop that?
Well, again, it's all about who gets a ballot, who submits a ballot, and how they get a ballot into the system. With the ability to do ballot harvesting, with the number of ballots and voters who are registered to vote and don't vote. For example, of the roughly 34,000 voters who are registered in Nye County, around 6,800 of those have never voted.
Wow.
And so that's a big potential for someone to get that ballot into the system if they are they're bad actors. But again, to me, it's not the system, it's how ballots get into the system that presents itself to the biggest amount of potential for misuse.
More questions?
No, I got that one.
Okay. All right. So one of the things was, what would you do differently? I think you've already addressed that. And how are you preparing for 2024 now?
Interesting, because the state is putting in a new voter registration system. So I'm
going to have to cut you off on that question.
Okay.
We got to go to commercial. Sorry about that. That was my fault. But we'll cover that when we come back. Okay. You're listening to What's the Story?
Hey, all you entrepreneurs out there. Whether you have a small business or work from home, LaRue Press offers a virtual office and business address for all your business needs. Located at 280 Gregg Street, Suite 10, LaRue Press is your personal assistant for friendly all-day service. Need a conference room to meet with clients? You got it. With LaRue Press, you also get phone answering service, mail forwarding, package pickup, and even help branding your business. Call LaRue Press at 849-3814 or go online to lrpnv.com.
At A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, we've been accomplishing happy feet for over 30 years.
We offer a various range of shoe styles and sizes for both men and women. From all-season shoes and orthotics to work boots and safety shoes, our professional and reliable staff possesses the knowledge to help you find the proper shoes to fit your needs. Hard to fit? Hard to find?
A Proper Fit Footwear is here to give our customers happy feet. We make people aware of potential foot problems as we're sizing their feet. suggesting the right arch support and guiding them to the proper shoes for their needs.
Stop by a Proper Fit Footwear at 4001 South Virginia Street in the Reno Town Mall today and allow the owner Mike Jones and our fabulous staff to find the perfect pair of shoes tailored to your specific needs.
A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, the home of Happy Feet, where comfort and your feet meet.
In Northern Nevada, there's a one-of-a-kind home that provides temporary overnight lodging when veterans or family members are receiving medical care in the Reno area, some from hundreds of miles away. Too often, overnight accommodations are a financial and logistical challenge. Stephanie Tanksley and her husband are veterans who come for treatment from Bishop, California.
We were lucky enough to be connected to the guest house so that I could stay for 10 nights when my husband was in the hospital. So I was able to visit him every day. It was just a blessing.
Veterans Guest House is privately supported by individual and community donations from people like you who recognize our responsibility to support our heroes. And no government money is received for day-to-day operation of the house.
Please support this organization. The Veterans Guest House is an amazing resource for veterans. Supporting this organization is one of the best ways that you can donate your time and your money just to help our veterans and their families.
Find out how you can help at veteransguesthouse.org.
I can't believe he found them.
He seems sorry.
We very clearly told him not to look up there.
I'm honestly impressed that he was able to do it.
Right? What did he balance on that big chair?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he'll just know what his gifts are this year.
I really thought we had hidden them well.
If they can find their presents, they can find a gun.
911, what is your emergency?
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
Now she's gone like a little...
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. This is What's the Story. I'm Janice Hermson. I'm your host. And we have been talking to Mark Kampf from Nye County in Nevada, in case you're listening somewhere else, and about the paper ballots and that process. And we wanted to talk a little bit right now. I cut you off on how you're preparing for 2024 right now. So you want to go into that?
Well, 2024 is going to be an interesting year from elections. There'll be 3 different elections: a presidential preference primary in February, a primary in June, and then the general election in November. So an additional election thrown in there, ruining my Christmas. We are working in addition to implement a new voter registration system, a top-down system from the Secretary of State's office that will solve some of our reporting snafus. But a lot of preparation is going to be going into place to get our voter rolls in place, to make sure our precincts are right so that we don't, have people in the wrong precincts, and that needs to be checked in very carefully. And then to also look
whose responsibility is it to get the voter rolls in place? That's something that we're all concerned about.
That's us, and we're about ready to remove around 4,000 inactive voters from our rolls who haven't voted in the last 2 elections, and then start our process of researching and reaching out to voters to confirm their addresses.
And that's required by federal law, correct? That if they haven't voted in 2 elections,
Yeah, that's the only way you can remove somebody if they didn't tell you that they moved or die or fill out a change of address form with the post office. 50% of the people move out of this county without ever letting anyone know.
But if they do fill out that change of address, then you can remove them?
I can remove them. But if they don't respond to a paper ballot, if it comes back undeliverable, or any other request we send out a confirmation. If that comes back undeliverable, then we make them inactive. And if they don't vote for 2 general elections, they can be removed from the voter rolls. And that's a nationwide
right.
guideline.
Okay. So 2024 is just going to be horrendous, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's going to be voter fatigue in
Oh my.
2024. It's going to be it's just going to be nonstop, especially with the process of registering candidates for the presidential preference primary in October. So it's all starting very soon. And
Wow.
it's going to take a lot of work with the new system. And we're going to be looking at methodologies for, again, increasing voter confidence. But one of the things the paper ballot has taught me is you need to train voters a little bit better on how to fill out a ballot.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So come on. People can't fill out forms.
Oh my goodness. Ed had a question at the break when we were talking off air, and he mentioned the fact that we haven't talked about cost. Cost for paper ballots versus cost using the machines. Is there a big difference? Is there a better or worse?
Well, I think ultimately, when it's all said and done, I'm going to reduce the cost to the county from using paper ballots because the license fees and the warranty costs on those machines is very expensive. And the only incremental cost for the paper ballots is really the printing cost. Everything else is a manual process that is done with the existing resources we've used at the polls.
Excellent.
Sounds green to me. Those are paper's renewable resource.
Exactly. And it is a significant amount of money that we're going to save as a result of not paying the license fees on those machines.
So you said, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's just, I'm looking for every way I can to make this an effective thing to continue and to find resources so that I can identify other methodologies for increasing voter confidence in the process we have existing.
So if you found a different methodology, then you would go to the commissioners and you would present a report. How would that work? Because you can't just arbitrarily change this, correct?
Well, I can change the way we do our basic election processes within the guidelines from the NRS. And as long as it doesn't cost the county any more money, I can do whatever I need to do. But anything where they have control over me is through the budget process. So
gotcha.
I have to work within those guidelines.
That's good to know. That's very good to know. And
it's kind of fascinating to be right here in Washoe County and have voter confidence in Nye County.
I know.
County folks got a clue.
Maybe we're moving.
Mark, one of the things, the three of us sit here, week after week, and we talk about global issues. And one of the things that we've come up with is the way to solve all of these global issues is the baseline. Start locally, and I think that's what you're doing. And I think you're setting a good example for others to do that, to get the whole system cleaned up, because that's the way the system should work. We've tried the global issues. Attacking them doesn't work.
No, it's easy for someone to walk in, not easy, but you can walk into a clerk's function and do things like you've always done them and accept things as they always are and have a pretty normal, comfortable life. Whereas when you ask questions about things and you challenge things, that's when your life becomes very interesting. And I think only when we start challenging things at the local level can we really make a change at the national level. We have to start with our own backyards. We've got to make election integrity has to start in the county level. Improving the voting experience has to start at the county level.
Right.
That's really where it all happens.
Yeah, from what I've seen in Nevada, there's a lot of people interested in helping to ensure that we have election integrity. And my question to you, you said that you had spoken to a lot of people across the country, other clerks across the country, and I would imagine also in Nevada. Can you, without violating any confidences, kind of give us a sense of their feeling on your results and whether they would want to make any changes in their counties?
Well, I think there's some limited appetite for this within Nevada. But for example, folks from Shasta County in California have reached out to me recently, and they have voted, the commissioners voted to get rid of the Dominion voting machines. Now they need to come up with a methodology for doing their vote counting and tabulating. So I've been in touch with them. Missouri is looking at a methodology very similar to what the state of Nevada has recommended as far as a hand count, but they have a 240-page document that explains that, and it's kind of a little bit out of hand and difficult to do. Texas, I'm trying to remember where, Philadelphia, people have been reaching out to me all over the country, looking into this, trying to figure out whether it's going to work for them. And basically, I give them what I can from what I've got. No sense reinventing the wheel, but I have to be honest with them that it's a challenge that really just, it can get out of hand quickly if you're not managing it properly.
So for the public, is there anything in particular, you only got a couple minutes here, but is there anything in particular you'd like them to know? And before you do that, I want to thank you for everything that you've done. I think that you just took on a big challenge, and I applaud you for what you've done.
Amen.
So anyway, but yeah, is there something you'd like us all to know, to do, whatever?
Well, I think there's again, follow the legislation. There's some things going on in the legislation that we're looking at, voter ID requirements within the legislation, maybe reducing the time with which you can get your mail-in ballots in, because we have too much abuse by allowing those to come in after Election Day. Those are key things to focus on. There's some legislation out there for that. And that to keep in touch with your county commission and clerks to make sure they take the time to explain to voters what their processes are and how they get things done and how they ensure voter integrity. We're just taking a little extra step here in Nye County, and I would encourage more counties to go beyond just the risk limiting audit. That's a very small sample, and something a little bit broader. That's
great. I thank you so much for being with us and taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, and we'll look forward to talking with you again.
Thanks. It's always fun.
Hey, thank you, sir.
All right. That was Mark Kampf from Nye County, Nevada. And coming up next, we have Betsy Hill, who is the author of Your Child Learns Differently. Now What? It's all about education.
Hey, sister, better watch out. Danger ahead. If you don't look at what you're doing, you're gonna end up dead.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about